Hello, Professor Dovey. So for this video, I will be addressing the question, what is gender and how does the law produce and protect gender hierarchies? So to start, let's get our definition of gender straight. So gender is a social construct that in Western societies categorizes people as men or women through socialization, expression, and learned behavior since birth. It's used to determine status, how people are treated, and what their expectations are. Gender isn't inherently and automatically connected to your sex, which is biologically determined. Rather, as Lorber says in Night to His Day, you have to be taught to be masculine or feminine. Lorber also says gender is so ingrained in our society that everyone does gender without thinking about it. Now with gender hierarchies. Gender hierarchies are pervasive and can be seen just about anywhere. It's about males holding the power in society, causing socioeconomic inequality for all other genders, and subordination in almost every aspect of life. It looks like women being expected to be married to a man and have kids above all else, domestic violence, rape culture, and even things as small as conversation dynamics. Gender hierarchies punish deviant women and enforces this hierarchy through violence and sanctions. Gender hierarchies are produced by heteronormativity. In Heteromantic Love and Heterosexiness in children's G-rated films, Karen Martin and Emily Kazak defined heteronormativity as something that structures social life so that heterosexuality is always assumed, expected, ordinary, and privileged. So not only do relationships have to be straight, they have to be married, monogamous, procreative, and have traditional domestic arrangements. So anything outside of these requirements, homosexuality, being childless, not being married, or anything else is seen as other and ostracized. This creates more factors into the gender hierarchy besides just man versus woman, and to be non-conforming means to be questioned, subordinated, and or punished, setting up the framework for who gets power and dominance. In Violence as Oppression, Ann Cudd discusses how domestic violence, sexual assault, and trafficking are the ultimate forms of men exerting dominance over women. These are crimes committed almost exclusively by men against women, thus are systemically treated as different from other forms of assault or violence based on provocation. For example, if someone is robbed at gunpoint, no one is asking you what you did to provoke being robbed, what you were doing, what you were wearing, things of that nature. But if you are sexually assaulted or raped, you are. You're asked, well, did you say no? What were you wearing? What were you drinking? Did you know this person? All to determine whether the charges are filed or if the case is even taken seriously. In Rethinking Rape Culture, Revelations of Intersectional Analysis, Alyssa Cassell evaluates a 2013 rape case involving Florida State University football player Woodston and FSU student Kinsman to demonstrate how male success, perception, and profit are prioritized over female safety, autonomy, and the right to not be violated. Timing hearings to evade Winston's expulsion or suspension during football season, him still receiving awards while the school was still investigating, and the police department deciding to not collect evidence or investigate, all to end with Florida State deciding that Winston didn't violate the student code. Kessel emphasizes an intersectional lens regarding this story, discussing how Winston being a black man and an athlete at that, and Kinsman being a white woman plays major roles into the handling of the case, but also in pointing out how different rape is treated between black women and white women. She explains how stereotypes that black women are hypersexualized, inhumanly strong, and incapable of victimization, thus have no need for protection, while white women are seen as pure vessels of whiteness in need of protection. These myths, this is a quote from the article, these myths perpetuate a culture in which individuals are only recognized as rape victims if they are deemed good enough, innocent enough, or helpless enough, and others are only recognized as perpetrators if they are bad enough, criminal enough, or inhumane enough. So in a society where women of color are automatically assumed not good, innocent, or helpless enough, these gender hierarchies are especially harsh on them. Important to note that class also plays an important factor as well. This display of power through gender hierarchies even shows up in smaller ways, such as through conversation dynamics. In Sex Roles, Interruptions, and Silences in Conversation, Zimmerman and West carry out a study where in cross-sex two-party conversations, males accounted for 46 out of the 48 interruptions, or 96% of the interruptions, while females only accounted for 2 out of the 48 interruptions, or 4% of the interruptions. Regarding overlaps, males accounted for all 9 of them, while females had none. The conversation with the most interruptions was actually a male student interrupting a female TA 13 times. So even when a woman is more qualified or even being sought for help, her voice still isn't regarded as important. As the author simply put it, we are dealing with a class of speakers, females, whose right to speak appeared to be casually infringed upon by males. Overall, gender hierarchies produce stereotypes that women are weak, incompetent, and incapable of leading or being the head of the house, subservient, too emotional, and that their main role in life is to be in a heterosexual reproductive marriage. Gender stereotypes and hierarchies are so woven into the fabric of our society that we can even see manifestations of this at the Supreme Court level. In Reed versus Reed, there was a law that said males must be preferred to females when appointing administration of estates. When Sally and Cecile, Reed's child, died, Cecile was appointed administrator, the male, which Sally challenged. It was argued that the law was for efficiency and convenience, as in to avoid hearings to decide who to appoint the estate to, but it raises a question: why is the man the default? Especially when there are other rules that would have the same effect without being discriminatory, such as appointing based on who filed first, or relationship to the state, or random selection. Is it assumed that men are more competent, that they're more capable because they must be the head of the household, that women can't handle estates and finances? The court unanimously decides that this law was unconstitutional, which is great, but not because of gender discrimination, rather because the law is arbitrary and inefficient. In Stanton v. Stanton, this case was argued over a Utah law stating girls are minors until age 18, while boys are minors until age 21. Utah justified the law by arguing that women mature earlier, are more likely to marry and become financially dependent on husbands, and men need more education to become breadwinners. This law is riddled with stereotypes that women are only to be wives, mothers, and dependents, while men are allowed to pursue education and become breadwinners and determine the path for their own life. This law says women aren't deserving of the same opportunities as men, placing them into a heteronormative box that they are to be domestic rather than autonomous beings who get to be active participants in their own life. The court struck down this law, again, seemingly great, but not because of its gender depression, but because the stereotype was seen as inaccurate. Finally, in Craig v. Boren, this case was similar to Stanton v. Stanton in that it was argued over a Oklahoma law that allowed men to buy beer at 18, while women couldn't buy until 21. The law was justified by arguing that young men are more likely to commit DUIs and get into accidents than women because women are just so responsible and mature and don't take risks, but men are just reckless and dangerous. So while this seems to favor men and associating them with technically positive attributes, it really just says, oh, boys will be boys, while it quite literally puts into law what women are supposed to be. The court deemed the law unconstitutional, again, seemingly a victory, because the sex-based classification has to be substantially related to important interests, though, not because of the gender stereotypes present. Overall, these court decisions, even when seemingly favorable, don't do anything to actually dismantle gender hierarchies. They only slightly mitigate them, while not even condemning the gender stereotypes, hierarchies, and inequality present in these laws, and still leaving the door open for laws to continue to subordinate women, as long as they do it well enough to the court's liking, by refusing to use strict scrutiny. In conclusion, gender is more than just a social construct alone. It's an institution that informs our legal system too. Our laws reflect our cultural norms of heteronormative stereotypes, minimizing violence against women, rape culture, and even deciding men always get to be heard over women in simple, casual conversations, actively constructing and reinforcing gender hierarchies and inequalities. Even at the Supreme Court level, clearly discriminatory laws won't be called what they are, only criticized for faulty reasoning to avoid substantial gender equality, thus producing and protecting gender hierarchies.